Epigenetics, how your lifestyle influences your genetic expression. We're going to be talking about something that a lot of you are asking me about on a regular basis in our community, and that is root causes. A year ago, I started having symptoms, hot flashes, night sweats. I've been dealing with lower thyroid function, really struggling, so exhausted. Started doing a lot of research. Joined a Facebook group from a podcast, started asking some questions about genetic SNPs. And I was introduced to our guest today. Through multiple conversations I had with her, I learned some really interesting stuff. People are looking for root causes. They're looking for lifestyle interventions. They want to know how to address their thyroid disease with their lifestyle. My mind is just blown wide open. Welcome to Save Your Thyroid, a podcast all about thyroid nodules. My name is Jennifer Holcomb, and I advocate for fellow patients suffering with this very common condition. Thyroid nodules impact 70% of adults in their lifetime, and the standard of care is surgical removal of half or all of the gland. But in recent years, safe and effective non-surgical treatment options have become available. In this podcast, I sit down with patients and physicians to discuss life with thyroid nodules, treatment options, and how to save the thyroid whenever possible. Today's episode is a bit different, and I think you'll love it. We're diving into epigenetics, how your lifestyle influences your genetic expression. This topic is key to understanding root causes and optimizing lifestyle interventions. Our guest is Susan Robbins, an expert in epigenetic human performance coaching and host of the podcast, Everyday Epigenetics, Raw, Real, Relatable. She's a Level 2 Certified Apeiron Zoh DNA Coach and a Precision Health Alliance PH coach. Since 2015, Susan has been helping people optimize their health and was even named 2023 PHA Coach of the Year. She previously worked with TruDiagnostics to interpret epigenetic age test results for clients globally. Susan's approach blends cutting-edge science with compassionate coaching, drawing on her personal past experiences with autoimmune issues, Lyme disease, and the stress of a career in law enforcement. She helps people to find the optimal path to health by understanding their unique genetic makeup. After this episode, be sure to check out her podcast, where she explores how lifestyle affects genetic expression and quality of life. Hey everyone, welcome back. I am here today to share some stuff with you that's been going on with me in my personal life, some stuff that I have never shared on this podcast before. It's kind of a long story for me to get started, so I am going to take a moment to just kind of set the stage and give you a little bit of background information about what's been going on with me that led me to the point of this episode talking about epigenetics, how your lifestyle influences your genetic expression. About a year ago, October of 2023, I started suffering with perimenopause symptoms. Now, for those of you who don't know, perimenopause is the period of time leading up to when a woman stops having periods. So menopause is that hard stop when you stop having periods for a year. Perimenopause is the transition that could last anywhere between 8 and 12 years. So I'm 42. A year ago, I started having symptoms, hot flashes, night sweats. It's not fun. I've been dealing with, unfortunately, because of that, lower thyroid function for about the past 6 months. To put any concerns aside, no, it was not as a result of my RFA procedure that was 5 years ago. If that had been the cause, we would have seen that immediately. This is something that's been kind of happening very gradually. I started doing a lot of research. I started trying to figure out, okay, what's going on with my hormones and why is it pulling down my thyroid function? You know, I love podcasts. As a podcaster, I'm always listening to podcasts. And I was listening to a podcast about this topic of T4, your inactive thyroid hormone, converting into T3, which is your active thyroid hormone. T3 is the only lab value that was actually low on my lab report. And I was really struggling. I was so exhausted. If you go back and look at my podcast back in January of this year, February of this year, I was not putting out any new content at that point because I was just so tired. I could not think straight. So I joined a Facebook group from a podcast that I listened to, and I started asking some questions about genetic SNPs. Now, what's a genetic SNP? A genetic SNP is when you have some kind of little break in your DNA. The reason I was looking into genetic SNPs is because there's actually a SNP, which we're going to talk about today, that prevents a person from converting that T4, the inactive thyroid hormone, to T3, the active thyroid hormone, which is what I was dealing with, was low T3. So I asked this question about genetic SNPs in this Facebook group, and I was introduced to our guest today. And through multiple conversations I had with her, I learned some really, really interesting stuff. As you all know, I do a lot of experimentation when it comes to my own lifestyle, diet, exercise, and I'm always trying to find what's the right fit for me. I hate to say the term biohacking because some people kind of have a negative association with that, but I'm always trying to optimize what's going on with my health. And I've not really ever succeeded tremendously with that for the long term. I've done some things in the past couple of years, like many of you may remember, I did a 9-month stint on carnivore. And for a long time in that 9 months, I felt pretty good. And then after a while, I didn't feel so great. Long story short, I learned some things from my conversations with our guest today that I felt like I really needed to share with you all. And so today we're going to be talking about something that a lot of you are asking me about on a regular basis in our community, and that is root causes. People are looking for root causes. They're looking for lifestyle interventions. They want to know how to address their thyroid disease with their lifestyle. And I have no answers for you, or at least up until now, I've had no answers for you. And we don't discuss these topics of lifestyle in the Save Your Thyroid community because of the fact that that community is based upon exclusively the non-surgical procedures that are available across the globe. So this isn't a topic that we've covered in our group. Additionally, this is a very individualized topic. Every person is different. What works for you might not work for the next person, might not work for me. So today, I'm going to introduce you to my new friend, Susan, and share a little bit about my own personal journey into the world of epigenetics. It's been really interesting, even though we're just getting started. My mind is just blown wide open. And this is actually going to be kind of a series that we're going to do together, covering my journey through this process. And I'm learning so very much, and it's fascinating, and I believe you're going to find it fascinating too. Thank you for putting up with my long introduction. Susan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I've been so excited to do this and share with what you're doing, what we're doing together, and just let people know that this is here. This is available, personalized health based on how you are created, not the generics, but genetics. So we met through the Facebook group. The first thing you were like, I want to look at doing DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, let's have a chat. Because like you want what you think you want. And the more you told me about the carnivore, and I'll tell people here what I do, I'm looking at you going, yeah, no, that's not right for you. I can tell just by how you're created, it's not ideal. And it's probably more detrimental, which is what it did turn into. When you started out with just the DNA, and I explained, well, actually I have something that can even be more precise that we add with the DNA. And so let's do this as a series, because it's a really a way to see real people go through something that's out there that nobody's talking about.
And, you know, every time I interview a doctor, they always say, well, the future of medicine is personalized medicine. Mm-hmm. And I absolutely agree. I feel like personalized health is the only way that you are truly going to be able to do what's right for you, because what's right for you is not always right for everyone else. So let's kind of start with the fact that we did initially start our conversation when we first met on DNA. Why should a person consider testing their DNA? I kind of alluded to this with the SNPs, but I want you to kind of give our listeners a bit of a more foundational example.
And I'm going to keep it super simple. I am not the science person, right? I'm all about taking action on things that work. So I'm going to make sure that I don't go over anybody's head. DNA, put very simply, deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay. And it's basically, it codes our genetic information so that we can transfer the inherited traits, right? It's basically, I say it's your blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
This is your blueprint of how you're created. You get your genes from your mom and from your dad.
Mm-hmm.
Now, those genes, if I've tested a 1.5-year-old, okay? So that 1.5-year-old can test 30 years down the road, the DNA stays the same. It's the expression of it that changes. So we're turning genes on and off all the time, and it comes down to the epigenetics, lifestyle, and environment.
Mm-hmm.
So why should we do DNA? Understanding your DNA and understand that DNA is probabilities and propensities. It is not absolutes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we have control up to about 95% of what our DNA does. There's really like 2% of actual mutations with disease that you can't work with. The majority of it, you can. We have control, so much control.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter whether it's young or older, but it's never too late and it's never too early to understand you and where your probabilities lie. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have that information, we work with that to alter the expression of that DNA through lifestyle and through environment. And so why do it? Why not? I think we should all have this at birth to understand what we're looking at so that
Mm-hmm.
we can tailor ourselves and know that if I go down this road, this is a likely thing that's going to happen. Or if I go down this road, this is a likely thing. So for me, for instance, I started drinking at the age of 14
Mm-hmm.
and never had a problem with it. I just started at a young age,
Mm-hmm.
family stuff and all. And at the age of 54, I found out that I was increased risk for the Alzheimer's gene, ApoE. One of the big enemies there is alcohol. Not even moderate alcohol is a good idea there.
Wow.
And I thought, well, holy hell. Is there a Malbec that tastes as good as having my wits about me does in my 60s because it's early onset? And I thought, nope. And so since 2019, done. I just cut it,
Yeah.
right? So I'm helping that gene not express by
Yeah.
making that lifestyle choice. Okay, so it just helps us to make those better decisions
Mm-hmm.
and understand how are our detox pathways. We come into contact with crap all day long in our foods, in our environment, in our cosmetics, hair stuff, right? The toxin bucket builds up. Do we have the ability to rid these things of the body? What is that ability like? How do we process saturated fats, Miss Carnivore, right? So, and that's another very real one that I see where a lot of people do not process them effectively. How do we
Mm-hmm.
know? Or if you're doing the right things. So that's where DNA can really be super helpful.
And I think the fact that so many people do trial and error, which is something I have done for a long time, is, oh, let me try this and see, let me try that. And you end up spending so much time and so much energy and so much money trying to figure things out. And then, of course, it's so hard with life circumstances, things that kind of we call confounding variables, right? They come in and they make it harder to really know, well, was that because I ate bad or because I slept bad? I don't know. It makes it so hard to go through constant trial and error and just feel like you're not ever getting anywhere. I felt like when I understood what this was about, it's like this is finally an opportunity to have to not do that. So that's why I find it so interesting. So you talked a bit about how our lifestyle interacts with our genes, turns good genes on, or turns bad genes on if you're living a poor lifestyle. And so in a few more weeks, we're going to actually do an episode here again and go over my DNA results. They haven't come back yet. I cannot wait to do that. So that's going to be, everybody stay tuned for that. That's going to be coming up soon. So let's talk about, without that piece of the puzzle, the other side, which you alluded to a moment ago, the lifestyle side, something called pH 360. What is it exactly, and how does it work? And how does it complement the DNA testing?
Yeah, they go together so much. So, well, first of all, you had said that the doctor said that the future of health is precision, right?
Right.
It's personalized health. It's not the future, it's here. It's now, right? This is what I'm doing is personalized health. And there's other people dabbling in it and working with it as well. But I am really the only one in the US that's combining these two on an active basis with a program. So the PH360, it's based out of Australia. It's an AI-based platform, and it looks at how you are formed in the womb and the predominant hormones that drive you. There's 15 layers of science in the algorithm, and they're all vetted sciences. So things like Chinese medicine, Ayurvedics, which have been around for thousands of years. You've got anthropometry, chronobiology. This one is a key that I used to do interpretations for TruDiagnostics, which is a biological age testing company.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these people were the biohackers thinking they're doing everything right, but yet something was off and they were aging a little bit more rapidly. And so they would say, you know, some of them came to work with me to see maybe you're doing all the right things, but you might be doing them at the wrong times,
Mm-hmm.
which is just as impactful as doing the wrong things, right? So that comes into play because that's what it's about, doing the right things at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the 15 layers of science. And when we go through an onboarding process, you have your DNA, which is your cheek swab. Okay, so if you've done 23andMe, which so many people have done, or Ancestry, that's ancestry based. So I do want to clarify that. Those are ancestry based. The DNA that I do is lifestyle based.
Mm-hmm.
So the thousands of SNPs that we go through are all things that we can work with and take action on
Mm-hmm.
that are very specific to lifestyle. Okay, now I can cut back to the PH360. With the PH360, we do an onboarding session, which you and I just did last week or 2 weeks ago. And we start with measurements. So we measure things like your skull, your jaw, your hands, your feet, the neck, a huge indicator of diabetes risk and inflammation, rib cage, another big one for inflammation, joints, right? We're measuring elbows, wrists, knees. And then there's an extensive health questionnaire that goes into it. Looks at a little bit of ancestry, but where are you now? It'll say a little bit of history, but really it's your, this one I say, this is your blueprint. It's your phenotype, which is how all of your genes are currently expressing. And
Right.
it always meets you where you are. So at the end of that session, the algorithm is saying, as we're inputting all this information, it's telling these 15 layers of science and the app, the Shae app, this is where this body needs support.
Mm-hmm.
So by the end, we have a profile that is unique to you. And I actually am doing DNA for the first time. I'm so excited for the first time on identical twins.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
I'm so excited. One has cancer for the second time. The other does not.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I want to see the DNA should be close to pretty much identical.
Right.
Here's another example of lifestyle and environment.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I know briefly, it's very different.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we have some control, right?
Mm-hmm.
So different phenotypes, different expression of that DNA. I take, say, the blueprint. This is how they work together. Let me circle back here. Sorry, guys. Let me circle back with the DNA. I get excited. With the PH360, when you have that profile, it will give you ideal times and windows. It's not, you have to eat at 2:00. It's ideal windows to eat, to sleep, when to use your mind and be mindful or detail-oriented things, when you're more creative according to your hormones and how you're created. When are the ideal times to work out, which we know is a game changer for someone with your health type, which is the diplomat.
Yep.
And I can go into more of that later. But it's so precise. And then the gold is in the food. Here's your times to eat. But here is your list of foods, not based on carbs or protein or fats or any of this stuff, but it's based on nutrient density. And it's ranked in order highest to lowest. And the other cool thing is it gives you the reasons why they are recommended for you. Same with an avoid list. These are the reasons these foods are recommended to not eat at this time. And it's not, hey, this is bad, carbs are bad. It's not nutrient dense to help you move forward, or it has some properties that are exacerbating symptoms that you already have. Reflux, gas, hemorrhoids, right? I mean, we don't think about that stuff, but food affects that, right? UTIs, yeast, common with a lot of women, especially with hormones issues. So that's your user manual. There's 25,000 recipes in there. And when we get recipe books or we're looking online, it's like, oh, I can't have that. I can't have that.
Right.
Well, the recipes that come up for you are only the ones recommended for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your user manual. So the DNA is your blueprint. Then we bring in the lifestyle and environment according to your user manual. So you have the epigenetics at play, and then we start to have optimal, because people are so, I want to get better. I want to get better. I'm fighting and I'm frustrated. And these are all stress words that keep us more stressed. And when we're looking for things, root causes, for instance, like you brought up,
Mm-hmm.
you go to a functional medicine doctor, it's like, spend $1,000, let's test this and this and this. Well, what are some of the things we can start doing that our body needs to be optimal? Because the more we look for things that are wrong, well, holy crap, we just find more things that are wrong.
Right.
When we start looking at what's right and what can we make right, it's a
Mm-hmm.
whole different mindset when you're feeding the
Mm-hmm.
body positive things than concentrating on the negative. So I combine the two.
Mm-hmm.
I can do DNA on its own. I do not coach solely on DNA because it's not precise, right? It gives us the information on probabilities.
Mm-hmm.
One picks up where the other doesn't. So the DNA can't, that's why I don't coach on it, can't say, these are the times you should be eating. This is the type of workout. These are the exact times you should be working out, or the exact foods, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I coached myself on just the DNA until I found the PH360, and I was like, missing piece of the puzzle, put them together. So I could do DNA, one and done. My typical program that I've been doing has been using the two combined, because the PH3 can't pick up on a specific SNP, like MTHFR, COMT, the D101, which we'll talk about, that converts the thyroid, right? The
Mm-hmm.
T4 to T3. So when you have the two together, and I just opened it up to where I will do PH360 on its own because it is precise enough. Some people have done DNA. So we
Mm-hmm.
can do that. But I like using the two together, because then you have all of your information to put it together and really achieve optimal results
Mm-hmm.
based on solely you and not the generics.
I love it so much. And this is even with just the PH360 part up to now, I'm already feeling so different. And it's crazy because I didn't make any really massive changes in my life. We were talking about this yesterday. One of the things that I was doing that was really bad for me was I was getting up at 4:45 in the morning and
Oh,
exercising. And I'm like, this is how I'm going to get it in before my day starts. And lo and behold, that's the worst time of day for me to get up and exercise. According to my profile, I'm actually supposed to exercise in the afternoon. I'm supposed to have a little bit more of a relaxed, slow morning. And I'm not even supposed to really think hard till probably like 11 or so. I can't remember exactly. But that was one thing that I immediately stopped doing, and it has made a huge difference in how much energy I have. I was wearing myself out before the day even started. Another thing that I've done is I've really started eating a lot more plants. Now, before anyone thinks that I'm becoming a vegetarian or vegan, I'm
yeah. No,
not. I will
that
never
is
be
not.
I will never be a vegan. I'll never be a vegetarian. I actually was when I was a teenager because my mom had some health issues and that was a problem for me. But I'm eating a lot more plants and I just feel better. I feel like my baseline of stress levels has come down so much. And what I was saying to Susan yesterday is that I am used to working hard, really, really hard, and everything being hard, but I'm disciplined and I'll do it. This doesn't feel hard to me. It just feels like it's
Natural.
just natural and normal. And let's talk for just a moment about flow, Susan, because I remember when you and I first met, you were talking about, oh, it sounds like you're out of flow. And I'm like, what the heck is she talking about? Like flow. And so, I kept hearing her say flow and everything. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And now I get it because I feel like things are just working like they're supposed to. And it's just it's what's right for me. So kind of, can you explain flow briefly?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, if you think about a boat in the ocean, right? And the boat's just cruising. A little bit of waves come in, but it's still just this nice flow on there. We're no different, right? When we are in our flow, again, there's an ease to it. It's natural. These are the things that naturally come to us. We've just been told by society, the media. This is how you should be. It's
Mm-hmm.
not who are we. So we create all this resistance. So you have that boat. Here comes a big wave, and the boat's like, oh, I need to go at it, right? I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to beat it. And what happens? Boom, you crash into it and you capsize. And then you're like back down again going, why me? Why me? When we're in the flow of doing everything, we just cruise over these waves. Things are easier because we are being authentically, which makes all of life a bit easier. And you're not creating that inner stress. And we know how much stress creates issues, disease, and disease within the body. And I think if we kind of talk about it a little bit this way, the different health types, there's 6 different health types, and your type is called the diplomat. And the diplomat, that's the majority of my clients, because your bodies are so specific. And no diplomat's the same. I have a mother and 2 daughters, all 3 diplomats, all different number diplomats. Their profiles were all vastly different. They're going to be coming on my podcast to see how, even though we can be the same health type, we're very different, right? And you and I are opposite on the wheel. You're on the one side as a diplomat. I'm called the activator. I am the one that can get up at 4:30 in the morning because I'm made for action. But by 7 o'clock at night, if I'm not engaged in something, I'm done. I check out, right? And where you are gaining energy as the day goes. So when you're getting up early in that morning, your type is going to have naturally a little bit higher cortisol levels. And where you sit on that circle, it showed that too. Because there's different degrees of the diplomat, as I said. When you are getting up early right then, your body is just not prepared for that stress. So you're stressing it more.
Yep.
And then what happens? Cortisol levels rise up again. So it's making sense that you're saying, as I'm in my flow, I'm feeling less stress. That's a flow. And there's a study done where they did with this type, early morning workouts, no workout, and an afternoon workout. The biggest benefit came from the afternoon. Do you know what came in last? The morning workout. That was actually detrimental. Again, because it's just raising these cortisol levels and keeping you stressed. And your type stores under stress. What also increases cortisol? A high protein diet. And what do we hear from all these freaking experts out there is more protein, and you're going to have a longer digestive tract. Too much protein is going to get in there, ferment, cause digestive issues. Stress is going to cause digestive issues, right? So all these things are playing a part to keep you out of flow. And it's flow is like being out of flow is just a feeling I'm off.
Yes.
In flow is feeling I am on today. My brain is working, my body is working, I have consistent energy. There's your flow.
I've noticed that, like, feeling more like myself, feeling happier, feeling like, okay, I feel good today. I can't tell you, Susan, how long I have just not felt good. Like, I've been tired, I've been in a bad mood, and I've just been like kind of just about everything and about life in general. And I wouldn't say I'd be depressed, but my mood has just been kind of low and kind of just very, kind of a negative perspective. And, a lot of people who watch this podcast probably don't realize the amount of time and effort that I've put into the podcast and our Facebook community. And, this is not a job for me, but I work like it's a full-time job. And so I've put a lot of energy into this, and sometimes it's really hard. A lot of times in the last year or two, it's been really hard because I've been struggling with this, just feeling off, feeling out of flow. So it's so incredible how I made just a few little minor tweaks, and I'm already like, wow, I feel so much better, so much happier, so much lighter. And it's really interesting how it's just like doing what's right for me.
I'm going to jump in here real quick with DNA. Be careful. Make sure, because not all DNA is created equally. And I will tell you that some of these promoting 4 SNPs for methylation, and we're going to tell you everything that's wrong with you. I caution there, because that's like, this is a thyroid group. That's like testing your TSH.
Right.
We don't have a full picture of what's happening with this body.
Right.
When I do different panels, it's like there's things in the micronutrient or supplement panel that refer back to the food panel. Then you have in my toxicants and inflammation, which is all about your detox system, that ends up referring back to food panel,
Right.
micronutrient panel, right? There's so many things that play together.
Mm-hmm.
So the more information you have, just be aware that 4 SNPs are not going to tell you what's wrong with your body. And again, do we want to know just what's wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody has, I've been dealt a hand to some crappy genes, as has everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all have some genes that are really good that we want to make sure express.
Mm-hmm.
So I want people to also know that. And if you look at like Chris Hemsworth, and he found out that he's an ApoE44.
Right.
I'm a 3. The 4/4 is the highest risk of the Alzheimer's. He was like, I'm quitting acting. I want to spend time with my family before I get Alzheimer's. It's like, dude, stop. You can work with this.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much out there, right? The nutritional part of it, the lifestyle part, exercise alone. For everybody here, exercise alone is a major epigenetic modifier.
Mm-hmm.
There's an obesity gene called FTO. And again, a lot of thyroid, I'm hypothyroid too, people. I'm Hashimoto's. I'm just a different type, right? I'm the activator. We're your little short CrossFit people, competitive, because I'm adrenaline, testosterone, where Jen is serotonin. She's about comfort. I'm about in your face and action. It's a great marrying of the two because one's detail oriented, the other one's action oriented. So we work with our strengths and weaknesses instead of like putting them down. Well, I was told, Susan, you're too much. Okay, well, this is who I am. It's just, now I get it, right? Again, it's more that authenticity.
Let's segue from that into the D101 and 102.
Yes.
Here, we talked about there are some SNPs that cause a person to have difficulty or inability completely to convert their inactive T4 to active T3. Why is that important? Right. Because T3 is what gives you energy, helps you lose weight, helps you think clearly, keeps you from losing your hair. And I was dealing with the worst low energy I've had in my life. And I've always been low energy pretty much my whole life. I've always been kind of tired. But for the past 6 months, I was literally to the point where like I can't function. I'm so tired. I was losing a lot of my hair. And I was noticing I was starting to pick up a few pounds, even though I was working out and eating really well, at least I thought. So my introduction to you was as I was doing the research on this SNP. So talk about that SNP and why that one, they're all important to kind of know about, but why is this one particularly important for thyroid patients to know about?
Sure. This D101, I wrote it down because I can never pronounce it right. Iodothyronine deiodinase. So that's your D101. So your D101 converts your inactive T4 to active T3, predominantly liver and kidneys. And so I wanted to explain the difference between the two because you also see a D102. The D102 and the liver and the kidney one, the D101, that's what we see in labs. That's what we see in blood work. The D102 is brain only, and that one is not detectable in labs. So there is still conversion in that brain. And when there's a low conversion or very lesser conversion there, if it's expressing, that can be feelings of lesser well-being, lower type of things, right? Now with the D101, so if you have, I'm going to do a little genetics 101 real quickly here. We have the SNP, so D101, and then you'd have 2 letters following it. Those letters are called alleles. One's from mom, one's from dad. And that creates your genotype for that specific gene. We have a variant and we have a normal. They're not mutations, people. They're variants because mutation is thrown out there. It's not a mutation. It's a variant off of the normal. So you can have a combination of 2 normals, 2 variants, or 1 of each. Well, when you have one of those variants in there with the D101, that can be, and there's 2 of them that we look at, say you have, both of them have a variant. I'm going to look at that and go, there is a higher likelihood here of decreased conversion of T4 to T3. And this is where you use labs to back it up. Is your reverse T3, is your T4 tend to be higher? Does your T3 tend to be lower, your free T3? If you have both variants, and I am actually one of these people, I have both variants in both of the D101s.
Wow.
When you were talking, saying these symptoms, I mean, look how much hair I've lost. Like, I just colored it. Otherwise, it would look, my scalp would be a lot lighter.
Mm-hmm.
It was bad. I've lost, and you think I have a lot of hair? I have lost more than half of my hair in the last couple of years.
Wow.
More than half. Like I would sit here and I could pull out clumps.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just got one there. Just one. It's like exciting to see. Just one.
Yeah.
The shower, clogging it.
Yeah.
I put the snake and clumps coming up and you just cry.
Yep.
Right? It's just so frustrating. And the nurse practitioner I had was giving me more T4, T3. And I kept telling her, she's like, well, take more. We'll up your dose. And the more I took, the more tired I was. Didn't want to get out of bed, losing hair. I've lost, thank God I had some microblading. I've lost almost all my eyebrows, especially I have no tail left, was gaining weight, all this stuff, right? And even though I was doing the right things, and I will tell you people, if your lifestyle's not dialed in, get it dialed in, because I was doing the right things at the right times and something was still off. So I didn't have to look at lifestyle. Typically we're looking at everything and going, is it the meds or is it the lifestyle? Dial in the lifestyle, then it's a lot easier to see what's happening. Otherwise you're throwing the pasta at the wall and it might stick for a second and then it's falling and you're like, now what? Okay. So I was like, wait a minute, I have genetics. Well, I got to go back and look. And there I see 2 variants in both. I'm like, holy crap, I'm homozygous is what we call that when you have both variants. And so I went to my nurse practitioner and told her, and she said, I don't care. You still need T4. And I'm not giving you T3 only. And so we fired each other. And I found a practitioner here. And I'm actually working with a thyroid hormone specialist as well, who is also giving me advice. And my new nurse practitioner was like, I'll give you T3 only. And I'm up to 42 micrograms twice a day of T3 only. And my hair is growing back. I feel good. I'm seeing little tiny eyebrows, but there's your big difference, right?
Yeah.
And then I see people that are increased conversion.
Yeah.
They have more propensity to go hyper. But you want to back it with the labs and you want to look at it. How are you feeling? What are the symptoms? Because generally the people that I've seen, and I've done a lot of DNA, generally the people I see with both variants, they're going to be T3 only. They do not feel good with the T4. Some with one variant or 2 variants over the 2. Some there end up going T3 only. Some others, a very minute amount of T4 is okay. And we know that we don't chase the T4 numbers. When you're doing T3 by itself, those numbers are going to change. So that's why that is hugely important if you have thyroid, to understand. It's a better way to be able to serve you as a practitioner to medication-wise. Do we need to alter this? This is where we're seeing. And again, you'll typically see that reverse T3. And I was told when you were saying, I've been in a bad mood for a while. It reminded me of Steel Magnolias with Weezer. I've just been in a very bad mood for the last 30 years. I wonder if she had thyroid issues, but it's a very real thing. And we know our bodies, and just like you do on this channel, and I love it, you have to be your best medical advocate. So the more you have backing up that says, this is me. So I talked to my practitioner the other day, and I had a couple of we saw that my T4 is like almost non-existent. My reverse T3 dropped like crazy, which is great. And my PSH is like non-existent. And I said, are you going to try to talk me into going in T3 or T4? And she said, Susan, you are so different in how you respond. And I was like, thank you. Because she wasn't at first like that. Now she's got it. And so now it's she's like, let's keep it where you are. If you feel good and your hair's coming back and everything, the energy. So there you go.
I love that. Most people watching this might not really understand the tweaking of the different, the T4 and the T3. A lot of them maybe go to their doctor and the doctor just checks the TSH. And if the TSH is normal, then they don't even bother to check the T4, much less the T3 or the reverse T3. So if anyone watching this is like, what the heck are they talking about? Do some research on understanding TSH is just a pituitary hormone. It's not actually a thyroid hormone. Your T4 level is inactive. If you take T4 and your body doesn't convert it into T3, you're not going to feel better. And so for me, I'm now also only taking T3. I'm up to 15 micrograms a day. and I feel much better. Like you, my hair's coming back, my skin is looking better. I'm feeling more like myself. So, and then reverse T3. My reverse T3 has always had the tendency to run high. So, if you're not sure what reverse T3 is, go look it up. It's an inactive metabolite that basically cancels out your active thyroid hormone T3. So, anyone who wants to look up an excellent resource on T3, what it means, how it works in your body, and if you only need to take T3 only medication, I highly encourage you to find the books by Paul Robinson. He's a British patient who has advocated for himself strongly for the past 30 years, and he is T3 only. But we're going to dive into this more with my DNA and as I go through PH 360. And I've got a few thyroid nodules. I've told everyone my story on here. If you're not familiar, if you're new, go back and watch my episode 1 where I tell my whole story start to finish. But I have what's left of a thyroid nodule that was ablated in 2019 and 2020. And then I've got a few other very small nodules that I've been monitoring. And so I'm interested to see if working along these lines with my genetics and my epigenetics, if there's some changes there. And I don't know, there may not be, they may be stable. There's things that, unfortunately we have no control over in our environment that we're exposed to, but I'm just curious to see, and a lot of patients are always saying to me, what can I do? What is there that I can do that I have control over that can help? So stay tuned for that. Susan, I want people to know how they can work with you if they want to also learn about this, do their DNA, do PH 360. How can people find you, and tell them about your podcast as well?
Sure. My podcast is called Everyday Epigenetics, Raw, Real, Relatable. It's raw because you never know what's going to come out of my mouth, but I'm real. My guests are real, and it's relatable to the everyday person, to the layman. But there's so many deep dive science podcasts out there. Go to it. You got Huberman, Sinclair, have at it. That's not me. I'm about helping people understand, again, things that we can use, actionable items. Anything, it's all lifestyle and environment and how it relates to our genetic expression.
Mm-hmm.
So there's episodes from everything from sex and epigenetics to Qigong, to understanding things like the diplomat body and why you came into more of a, why in the beginning it's a little more plant-based. And all of that, which I didn't touch on, was to reduce cortisol levels. So it takes the stress off the body and it allows you to start releasing body fat, releasing stress. And then we remeasure, and then it sees that these changes are made. You're going to see inflammation going down, weight's going to go down. The profile reflects that, the algorithm, and you see food start coming back. Right. But it's getting you out of this state of stress that you're in. So I did want to say that. That was why.
It's adjusting to your outcomes. I forgot I was going to mention this earlier. You mentioned Shae. Shae is just the app that you use that has all of your stuff in it, like the recipes, the schedules, like when you should eat, exercise, sleep, all of those things. There's an app that tells you this is what you should do. Like, it couldn't be more simple. And I love that because people are always trying to overcomplicate things. This is like so simple.
So you can check out my podcast, Everyday Epigenetics, Raw, Real, Relatable, and Jen's going to be coming on there as well. So we're going to do this back and forth because the reason I do it, nobody knows this is here. Again, it's Australia based. Nobody knows this is here in the States. And I'm trying to spread the word that there is personalized health. The future is here now, and just let people know of options. My website is Healthy Awakening, CO. So it's not .com, but Healthy Awakening. And I say there's no S at the end. You get one awakening. It's just a big one. So healthyawakening.co. And then we'll have all my information in the show notes here as well. My consults, if you want to just have a conversation, they're free. It's just like what I did with Jen, when she's like, I want to do DNA. And I'm going, but if you're saying you're tired of not knowing what the hell to do anymore, this is actually what you're looking more at. So that's how we came to the decision to do what we did with her. Everyone's different in what your needs are. So I want you to get what you're actually looking for and have what you want to accomplish. And if we're not a fit, that's okay too. So, right, we're always where we're supposed to be. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Reach out, message me. I'm super accessible. All my clients get my phone number. I'm super accessible. And I'm happy to answer questions.
I think anyone watching this who really wants to know more should go to your podcast and watch these episodes that you filmed with what's the
Cam,
name? Cam.
Dr. Cam McDonald. Episodes
Watch
1 and 2, people.
watch
One
those
and two.
episodes. Susan and I had our first meeting, and then she said, go watch those episodes. And all the questions that I still had where I was like, "Ah, I just don't get this part." They were all answered in those episodes. And it's very incredibly fascinating just listening to him to talk about, how our genetic expression affects how we live and vice versa. And the different health types you mentioned, the diplomat and the activator, all of that stuff, if it's over your head, go watch those episodes. I'll link it all, as you said, in the show notes. Thank you
You'll be blown away.
Thank you so much, Susan. This has been a blast. I can't wait to keep going and see where we can help people learn more about why they are the way they are, and then help them live the best way they can. So
best quality of life. If you don't have quality of life, you have nothing. And that's why you and I both do what we do. We want to help as many people as we can because you and I both experience what it feels like to have the decreased quality of life.
Absolutely.
And try everything and get nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Amen.
This is awesome. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks so much for listening. Please share this content and help others. If you need resources, testimonials, and support, please join our patient community, Save Your Thyroid. You can also find me on social media and Substack under the media handle, It's Me Jen Again. Never forget to educate yourself and be your own advocate and save your thyroid.